Welcome, all you guys, gals, non-binary pals, to the first ever Podfic reading by me, Patch.Work.Podfics. Today I'll be reading What Makes a Monster and What Makes a Man, Chapter 1. This story is a crossover between Steven Universe and Gravity Falls, has 20 chapters and around 34,000 words. It has no archive warnings and is rated for teen and up audiences. Here's the summary. Dipper is excited to be back in Gravity Falls and hopes to uncover some of the town's tamer, less apocalyptic secrets. Mabel just wants to enjoy the summer in her favorite town with her favorite twin and her favorite people. Soos wants to know how this kid manages to come up with such wild ideas for new exhibits. Ford wants to be prepared for the next apocalypse. Stan wants to help a kid, the way he wishes someone had helped him. Steven just wants to know why he can't leave. Or Steven winds up trapped in Gravity Falls, and hijinks ensue. Chapter 1. In Dipper's defense, it wasn't meant to turn out this way. He had just been curious about the latest anomaly in Gravity Falls. Now, there was a raging pink worm making its way out of the woods. Both sets of Pines twins had been back in town for a week when he showed up. A teenage boy in a Dondai, asking if anyone had noticed anything suspicious going on. He was quickly pointed in the direction of the mystery shack. He looked around for a bit, then got back in the Dondai and drove away. Dipper had thought that was it, that another conspiracy theorist had heard about the town, seen that the shack was a hoax, and left. Then the boy came back again. And again. He was polite and seemed familiar, though Dipper couldn't place why. Maybe because he had come to the mystery shack 3 times, but Dipper still felt like he was missing something. Something obvious that tickled in the back of his skull. When he brought it up to Mabel, she immediately decided to resolve it in a Mabel fashion, going up and confronting him about it. Dipper had tried to get her to stop, but she ignored him. She walked straight up to the other boy and started talking. Then she pointed towards Dipper. Dipper looked away from them, blushing at having been caught staring, but he could still feel Mabel and the boy looking at him. Why were they looking at him? Something was coming towards him. Was it Mabel? No, the footsteps sounded different, which meant it had to be the boy. Dipper tensed. Hey, so are you the one who does research into the strange things about this town? The unexplainable? The, say, magic barriers? Bill had been interested in breaking the barrier. What if this stranger was working with him? Or being tricked or possessed? His shirt had a yellow star on it, and a star was basically a bunch of triangles stuck together. Never mind all that. They had barely defeated Bill last time, never mind all that. And Grunkle Stan had lost his memories, never mind all that. And Mabel had been hurt. What if Bill's defeat was all a dream? What if it was a lie? What if Bill was floating around somewhere, laughing at him, manipulating him, controlling him, hurting Mabel? Someone was talking to him. They were saying something. Dipper tried to focus on the words. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Dipper tried to breathe with the count. He hadn't even noticed that he had started hyperventilating. Listen, if you don't want to talk about it, I understand. Or if you can't, it's okay. It was the stranger. As he talked, he waved Mabel over. She sat down next to him and pulled out one of her worm-on-a-strings. Dipper took it and wound it around his fingers. Focused on the repetitive motion, the feeling of the fuzz. Bill wasn't here. Everything was fine. Grunkle Stan came into the shack and saw the 3 of them sitting on the floor. Listen, kid, if you're causing problems, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Now. Stick shift. Did Dipper really look bad enough that Grunkle Stan was going to kick out a potential source of money out of the shack? The older boy nodded and stood up. As he started to walk away, he turned and glanced back at Grunkle Stan. Do you know any good parking lots in the area? Silence. Like, it doesn't have to be fantastic or anything. It's just hard to sleep if the lights are too bright, you know? Dipper stared at the boy. Had he been living out of his car? That didn't seem safe. And neither were any of the parking lots. Not in this town. Not when there was who knows what lurking in the woods after Bill took over. Grunkle Stan spoke up. There aren't any great parking lots, but I think there is a cheap motel across town. The boy's face fell slightly, but was quickly covered by a wide smile. That's okay. Thanks anyways. And sorry for freaking you out, kid. I'll just go now. What's your name? Dipper called after him. And how did you know how to help? The stranger looked at him curiously. Steven Universe. and that trick usually helps me when I'm having a panic attack. It has a sort of flow you can follow, like music. A panic attack. Was that what Dipper had been getting? Sure, he had difficulty breathing sometimes. He'd always just assumed it was his binder, or he would have trouble thinking, but everyone felt confused sometimes, or when he felt like he was being crushed by the weight of what happened, like at any moment he would open his eyes and be back in hell, but that would be easier because then he would have something to focus on. He knew it had actually happened and he wasn't exaggerating, because if it really was that bad, he probably would have some mental scars and... Oh, maybe Steven had a point. Do you think you could explain how it works? The breathing thing, I mean, not a panic attack or music, just, breathing. Not how to breathe, but the counting thing. Okay, so you breathe in for 4 seconds, right? Then you hold it in for 7, breathe out for 8, and keep doing that until you have control again. But if that doesn't work, there are some good other ones. You can find a bunch of good tricks online. Steven nodded to Grunkle Stan and turned to leave again. This time it was Mabel who spoke up. Why are you looking for a parking lot? Dipper elbowed her. If Steven couldn't afford otherwise, it wasn't nice to point it out. But rather than get upset, Steven laughed. Most places ask for ID. Things get awkward, and I usually end up having to lay low or leave town to avoid issues. Is that oversharing? That might be oversharing. Okay, I'm just gonna go now, he pointed towards the door. Oh, no, you don't. It was Grunkle Stan. There was a look in his eyes, a mix of understanding and pity. You're staying here tonight. As long as you aren't a cop or a crazy murderer, you're welcome to stay as long as you need. Something flashed through Steven's eyes. It really is okay. I'll be fine. It's just been me and the Dondai for a while now. Plus, it's not my first time living out of a car. Although it was a van before, and with my dad, and I was a lot smaller. But seriously, That's it. You're staying. Room and board will be taken out of your paycheck. I'm sure Soos won't mind. Welcome to the Mystery Shack. Chapter 2. Just a little something else instead. Chapter summary. Detective Dipper makes an appearance. Steven is a master of being subtle. Trademark. The shack had plenty of rooms filled with old exhibits. Dipper and Mabel were sent to clear one of them out while Stan introduced Steven to Soos. Do you think any of these exhibits are secretly alive? Mabel asked, prodding a small shoebox with her foot. I don't see any statues, so we should be fine. The wax statues were all gone, except for that one head that lived in the vents. Was it still there? Even if it was probably fine. That head was barely homicidal. Hopefully. By the time Stan brought Steven to the room, it was almost entirely empty. Steven smiled and thanked the twins. Grunkle Stan looked around the room and nodded. I would say that supper will be ready soon, but Ford wanted to try cooking now that we have a kitchen again, so there is a high chance that there will be a fire. Who wants to check? Me, Mabel cried, nearly knocking Steven over in her mad dash towards the kitchen. Stan groaned. Now there'll definitely be a fire. Dipper, can you give Steven a tour? I'm gonna go order a pizza. Hey kid, any allergies? What's an allergy? The fire alarm went off. Oh geez, I'll just throw in a cheese with our regular. Dipper, you still like the same stuff. Great, okay, good luck with the tour. Grunkle Stan set off towards the kitchen. Ford, how the heck do you manage to start a fire making... And then Dipper was alone, with Steven, who up till now had been living out of a car, and did not know what allergies were. What kind of cryptid life had this guy led? Allergies. Wait, is that one of those school things? Connie never mentioned it, and it wasn't something that the Gems learned at Little Homeschool. Steven paused and glanced at Dipper. Wait, did I say gems? Dipper nodded. Maybe the school mascot was a gem? There was nothing to worry about. Of course, I said gems. The students are gems. Wait, no, they aren't gems. Definitely not. I don't know why I would say that. Can we just ignore that? What's an allergy? Or maybe there was. Had the journals ever mentioned gems? Dipper couldn't recall. He would have to ask Great Uncle Ford later. But until then, Dipper could not let Steven know he was onto him, which meant explaining allergies. It's like when your body treats something like a virus, even though it isn't. The reaction can be mild, and it can also be deadly. Your immune system goes nuts, which is a common allergy, by the way. So, seafood, pollen... Me and Mabel are allergic to grass. Wait, so eating those things can make you die? I knew it! Bluebird was trying to kill me! Steven covered his mouth and looked at Dipper. He laughed awkwardly. Bluebird was a joker who liked to play pranks. She once fed me a plate of grass, clams, and peanut butter. Can you give me a moment? Steven then pulled out his phone and started typing. Need to set a reminder so that I can bring that up at my next therapy appointment. Dipper nodded, then took Steven on a tour of the house, but he couldn't focus, and his mind was racing. If Steven could afford therapy, why was he living out of a van? Upon discovering allergies, he realized that an attempt had been made on his life. He hadn't been surprised by that idea, that someone wanted him dead. He seemed to take it as some sort of validation. What was up with this kid? The pizza arrived, and everyone gathered in the living room. Ford and Mabel were still covered in soot. Dipper made a note to make sure they were not left alone in the kitchen. He liked the Mystery Shack standing. He'd prefer not reliving when Gideon had taken over. Plus, then Steven would be back in his car, and Dipper would never get answers. The thought had Dipper glancing towards the older teen, who was eyeing the boxes warily. Does Oregon do pizzas the Keystone way or the Delmarva way? Not sure what the difference is. Pizza is pizza, dude, Soos said, opening and holding a box towards the newcomer. Steven breathed a sigh of relief. It isn't square. And with that strange remark, everyone started to eat. After dinner, Stan asked if anyone wanted to help him with an arts and crafts project. Mabel agreed immediately, and volunteered Dipper to join, which meant Dipper was there for the strange experience that was trying to make Steven a piece of identification. Okay, do you have a license that you don't want to use, or are we starting from scratch? A license? Am I supposed to have one of those? From scratch it is. What name do you want on the card? Should it match the one on the medical form that Dr. Maheshwaran filled out for me? If you want it to. Which led to the discovery that Steven's full name was Stephen Quartz Cutie Pie DeMayo Diamond Universe, and that he did not have a social security number or any sort of identification at all. It was as if he had fallen from the sky. Steven had been strange enough before, now he was definitely going on Dipper's watch list. After he and Mabel went up to the attic, Dipper pulled out his notebook. It was nothing compared to the journals, but it was a start. Filled with what he could remember about Gravity Falls, as well as notes from various conspiracy pages and blogs he followed, the notebook housed his research about the bizarre. He flipped to a fresh page and wrote, Steven Universe, at the top. The first step on Dipper's to-do list was to figure out why Steven had been interested in the barrier surrounding Gravity Falls. The first approach involved following Steven as he went about his first day at work, at which Steven unnaturally excelled. Wendy was still on the register. Steven went around the shack engaging people while Soos was busy on a Mr. Mystery tour. He helped a lost kid find their family. He managed to convince two people that hated each other to become good friends. When one customer kept pointing out that different exhibits had to be fake, Steven wound up complicated stories about their origins on the spot, including one about a race of shapeshifters that had been trying to conquer their Earth and their eventual defeat. Steven brought the Mystery Shack to life, frequently with a song, just to prove his point. There was something supernatural about Steven Universe, and Detective Dipper was on the case. It was time to do some espionage work. So, why did you ask me about the magic barriers in town? What? How did you know about them? I thought everyone did, that it was just an invisible bubble that traps everyone inside. You can get in, but you can't get out. Is that not what it is? What was it Great Uncle Ford had said? When interrogating someone without them knowing, provide vague details and let them fill in the blanks? That seemed like something he would suggest. Not exactly. It only traps the strange, the unusual. Gravity Falls is a hotspot for that kind of stuff. Is that not why you're here? Not really. I was just passing through, but every time I try to leave, it's like some invisible force stops my car. Hold on, are you wearing a Duck-tective hat? Good show, though I was more interested in things like Lonely Blade and Dogcopter myself. Then I got really into the Unfamiliar Familiar book series after I was banned from television for 1,000 years. Dipper could not stop himself from staring. Oh, don't worry, the ban got lifted, but it kick-started my love of books, which in turn... The noise of something breaking interrupted Steven. Another kid must have knocked something over. I should go fix that. Talk later, okay? Dipper's head was spinning. He scribbled furiously in his notebook, then went to see which exhibit had been broken. Maybe he could figure out more if he helped clean up. Something was up with Steven Universe, and Dipper was going to get to the bottom of it. That's all the reading for today, folks. Tune in next time for another edition in which Dipper learns that he should not believe everything he reads on the internet. Anyways, thank you all for listening. The quality probably isn't the best. This is the first podfic I've ever made, but I'm going to be trying to improve my quality as time goes on. So despite all that, I really hope you enjoyed. Patch out.